This message is brought to you by W Energy. Are you a gamer, streamer, podcaster, content creator, just a gym nut? Looking for a boost of energy without the jitters or crash? Then W Energy is the way to go. No calories, no sugar, no fillers, no artificial colors. Just an energy drink packed with multiple vitamins and neurofactor. Go to www.w.gg to order your tub of W Energy now and use promo code Khaotic1 to get 10% off your order. Now with that, let's get to the show.
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue. All the latest topics guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel just like you're a kid again. Kid to pro and friends black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
And good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and black culture is supreme. Brought to you by W Energy, the official energy drink sponsor of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. Please be sure that you use Chaotic Culture 1 as a promo code to get 10% off of your favorite W Energy flavor. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, this podcast will deep dive into modern black culture and how millennials and Gen Z can navigate the crazy parts from finances, music, black business highlights, home ownership, HBCU, sports, black nerddom, anime, wrestling. If it encompasses black culture, we're going to cover it. Live from the 757, I am the host and the creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. This is your boy, Ked the Pro, aka the Calculated Millennial, the encore presentation. Now, can I get an encore? Do you want more? Aka your favorite toxic adjacent king, Ked the Poet, Ked the Closer. The 843 is me, but VA is where I stay. Always chaotic, never toxic most days. Back again once again with your favorite black culture highlights and black culture shenanigans. I am here, of course, just by myself, doing a wrestling review, more so than a reaction, and fallout to the 2024 Royal Rumble. Now, if you are wrestling fans, of course, I encourage you to listen. And if you're not a wrestling fan, that's fine too. Listen for engagement. It definitely helps. Please be sure, of course, that you use your favorite streaming platforms to listen to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. If you are on Apple Music or Spotify, please be sure that you give us a 5-star review. Now, of course, I do have other topics that I could talk about as well involving the culture. For those of us who know the whole Nikki and Meg situation, I'm definitely going to get to that this week too. So just be advised, there is an episode that will come on that sometime this week too. I forget about y'all, but I definitely wanted to cover the Royal Rumble because I am a big wrestling fan and I watched the Royal Rumble and I had a good time. Was it the best Royal Rumble that I've ever seen? Not necessarily, but still I had a great time. I thought the women's match was incredible. I thought the men's match, it was dragging at parts, but I think the story at the end really hit it off well. The Universal WWE Championship match, hit or miss, because I think the ending was a bit too predictable. And of course, the United States Championship match with Kevin Owens and Logan Paul actually was not bad. I'm also in the middle of watching Raw itself, so I'm watching the fallout there. So I'll give some comments on what's happened since the Royal Rumble has ended, obviously. So I definitely want to go ahead and get started with the coverage. Of course, a shout out to my co-host, all 5 of y'all. I know that y'all couldn't be here tonight because, people have to work and have things to do. But that being said, of course, I may or may not be joined here by other guests as well. If not, it's cool. I can run it solo. But if I'm joined by my other wrestling nerds, aka the wrestling is for niggas group that we've called, or aka the usual suspects, then of course we will have them join the pod a little later. But for now, let's go ahead and just talk about the fallout from the Royal Rumble, and hopefully I won't keep you too long. If you are a Patreon subscriber, of course you can see our Royal Rumble prediction episode, of course, video only. If you want to check it out, please be sure, of course, that you subscribe to the Patreon. That's patreon.com/Chaotic Culture Pod. You can subscribe at any of the 4 levels, whether it be $3, $5, $7, or $10. Once again, we appreciate your support. Now, let's get to this Royal Rumble reaction episode. Now, Again, if you are a wrestling fan, especially a fan of WWE, you know that there are four big staples within WWE. There are four mainstay PLEs or premium live events. For those who don't know what that is, again, that's pretty much the new term for pay per view that's being broadcasted on a streaming network. And of course, they have one that's like kind of teetering there. Money in the Bank being the fifth one, but the four mainstays are the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania, with WrestleMania being their biggest show. And they call it the granddaddy of them all, the showcase of the immortals. It's really the biggest night in wrestling, regardless of what wrestling company it is. WrestleMania is that show. It is the mainstay show. And the Royal Rumble, of course, kicks off the road to WrestleMania. So, with that, the Royal Rumble, of course, is a match where you have 30 participants who run down to the ring every, well, they say 90 seconds, but if I'm more like 60. And of course, after the 30th person, the last person to stand in the ring is the winner. Now, you eliminate the other people by throwing them over the top rope. That's the only way to eliminate someone. If they go through the second rope, if they go to the bottom rope, they're not eliminated. They have to be thrown over the top rope, and both feet have to hit the floor. If one foot doesn't hit the floor, then they're technically still in it. They've had plenty of hijinks and whatnot of people who have found creative ways to stay in the Rumble match. But again, if both feet hit the floor after you've been thrown over the top rope, then you are eliminated. Even if you go over the top rope and stay on the apron for a little while and someone knocks you off, you're eliminated. So somebody who's not even in the match can pull you out and eliminate you. That's kind of unfair, but that's just how it is. So with that, we want to start to talk about the women's Royal Rumble match. Now, there haven't been that many of them, but they started really doing the women's matches around 2017, 2018. And if I'm not mistaken, Asuka was the first person to win the women's Royal Rumble match, the first women's Royal Rumble match. So this year we were wondering, well, who was going to win? Some of us had Bayley winning, some of us had Becky winning, some of us had Bianca winning. Some of us even predicted that Jade Cargill would finally debut on the WWE roster and actually win the thing. Now, if you're not familiar with Jade Cargill, she was initially signed to another wrestling company called All Elite Wrestling, or AEW. She is now officially signed with WWE. She is her aura is absolutely amazing. There's really no real way to describe what she is. Like, she is literally a phenomenon. Her strength is absolutely crazy. And the look about her, her presence, all of that it just bleeds superstar. So, with that in mind, what I'm watching now, of course, it looks like the Kabuki Warriors, which I know is kind of like not racist, but like borderline racist. Um, But right now, the Kabuki Warriors are making their way to the ring, and the Kabuki Warriors, of course, are Asuka and Kairi Sane, who are also a part of a group called Damage Control, which they joined actually not too long ago. So they're getting ready to have a match with Tegan Knox and Natalya next. I encourage you, of course, if you're not a wrestling fan, or you were like back in the 90s during the Attitude Era, or maybe even the mid 2000s during the Ruthless Aggression era. I know at a time wrestling was kind of like at a meh point with the PG era and the reality era, but this is truly like a renaissance for wrestling. And even though they don't do a whole bunch of crazy ish and wild ish for, like they did in the 90s and whatnot, it's still very, very entertaining. Now, obviously, with Vince McMahon no longer in control of WWE and actually no longer being a part of WWE since his latest allegations, if you haven't heard about them, please, I just encourage you to read upon the case. It's absolutely horrendous what this man did. But a lot of us who are wrestling fans were very, very synonymous with the name of Vince McMahon. And the things that he did in this lawsuit, this current lawsuit against him, it's just indescribable. So I encourage you all to go and read that lawsuit. It's hard to get through. I was only able to get through maybe a couple pages before I was like, I can't do this anymore. But it's necessary that we have those conversations. And again, to all of the victims of sexual assault or sexual abuse, you just know that we stand with you and we are here for you, especially for our Black women. Know that I'm here as an advocate for you. You are survivors, you are strong, and just know that if you need anyone to support you, that I'm here as well. So, with that being said, read about the case. Just know that Vince McMahon is no longer a part of TKO and WWE. Now, TKO, of course, is the group holdings that hold the UFC and WWE, which all falls under the Endeavor. So, with that in mind, of course, WWE got sold to Endeavor last year, and that's where TKO was formed, and that's why there have been so many changes. But regardless of that, we want to talk about this women's Royal Rumble. So, the first person to come out was Natalya. Now, I wondered why they decided to go with Natty as entrant number one, but it kind of made sense because entrant number two was a returning Naomi. Now, if you don't know who Naomi is, her name is actually Trinity Fatu. She is the wife of Jonathan Fatu, who goes by Jimmy Uso on the main roster. He's a twin, obviously, and he's a part of that whole Samoan dynasty and Samoan family. So yeah, that's his wife. And Trinity, or Naomi at the time, had actually gone over to, at the time, Impact Wrestling before it changed its name back to TNA Wrestling. And she went there for a time and spent some time as the Impact slash TNA Knockouts World Champion, which is the women's division over in TNA, which is honestly is one of the best women's divisions in wrestling right now. Like, I know WWE has a great women's division now, but TNA was killing it from '05 on. If you haven't seen some of them old matches, I implore you to go watch a knockouts match. You will be like, wow, these women can go. So with that in mind, Naomi returns, gets a huge ovation and a huge welcome back, because if you remember how she left in 2022 because Vince McMahon and Johnny Laurinaitis really weren't pushing the women's tag team division like that, and some other bullshit. And so Naomi and the former Sasha Banks, who now goes by Mercedes Moné, they literally just left the titles on the desk and they walked out. And honestly, good for them, because we see that Johnny Laurinaitis, who's also part of that lawsuit, is no longer with the company as well. And he's had some, the people in WWE have had some major problems with Johnny Laurinaitis. But anyway, back to the match. Of course, that was number one and number two. Now, I'm not going to go through like every entrant into the men's and the women's Royal Rumble match, because that's 60 people to get through, and we ain't got all that kind of time. But just, I wanted to throw in some of the big tidbits of this match. Now, one of the biggest surprises to come off this match was Jordan Grace, who is the current TNA Knockouts champion and the person who beat Naomi before she left and came back to the WWE for the title. So it was a good moment to see them in the ring. Of course, they actually hugged each other, and then like as soon as the hug was finished, they just start going blow for blow. I thought that was a funny moment. I definitely love seeing Jordan Grace be a participant in the Royal Rumble. Now, of course, after a while, you get some of the heavy hitters. Bianca Belair has come into the match. She is the one who actually eliminates Jordan Grace. If I'm not mistaken, Bianca's number was number 10 and Jordan was number 5. But she is actually the one to eliminate Jordan Grace. But it's not like she eliminates her immediately, obviously. Jordan Grace actually does get some offense in while in the match, and you can see that she actually spends a good amount of time in the match. So definitely shout out to TNA Wrestling for being able to partner with WWE and allow her to come and participate in that match. That was a great surprise to see. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about is Miss Chelsea Green. Now, poor Chelsea Green, she done went through it during that match. And I know that she was pretty much like the comedy act, but she really went through it in that match. Like, there were times where we thought that she might get a quick elimination, but she actually stayed in there a good bit of time. But every now and again, she'd find herself getting hit by one of the bigger women, and the abuse was just funny as hell, like absolutely funny. You do see her potentially get eliminated, but she's saved by her partner Piper Niven, who jokes like she's gonna drop her, but then actually puts her on the steps and says, "Hey, get back in the ring." So they actually get a chance to go in the ring and do it. Now Piper is also one of the what they call the powerhouse of one of the powerhouses of the women's division, because she's a big girl. We don't judge big girls over here though. Big girls need love too. Anyway, Piper goes in, and there's a few times and a few moments where like Piper would accidentally squish Chelsea Green, and Chelsea Green would just fall out like, oh my god, like she's knocked completely out. It's just so hilarious. And big shout out to Chelsea Green for actually being the comedic relief in this match. But poor Chelsea Green, it's crazy. One of the other spots here is Naomi, who is still in the match, and she's been in the match for a while. She actually was going up against Alba Fire, aka the former Kaylee Ray. Now, what she did was very interesting. Naomi used the Heat Seeker, or a version of the Heat Seeker, to eliminate Alba Fire. Now, if you don't know what the Heat Seeker is, that is the finisher for one of AEW's pillars and a former AEW World Champion, MJF, or Maxwell Jacob Freeman. That is one of his finishers. So to see Naomi use it was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, okay, well, we here now. So that was a very interesting spot. One of the funniest, absolutely funniest moments of the Royal Rumble is while Valhalla, who is the former Sarah Logan, but she's going with the Viking gimmick now, she was walking to the ring, and R-Truth, who is a male by the way, comes running out to the ring. And of course, he gets into the ring and he comes face to face with Nia Jax, who was entrant number 19. Now, Nia had eliminated R-Truth when she was one of two women who actually participated in the men's match one year. So, of course, as a callback, she's the one who throws him over the ring, even though he's technically not in the match. And then, of course, you have Adam Pearce, who is the general manager of Raw, come out and say, "You're not in the match, bro. This is the women's match." R-Truth goes, "Are you sure it's all women in there?" And Adam Pearce is like, "Yes." Now Valhalla gets into the ring, but she's like immediately eliminated. Like, I don't even think she lasts 3 seconds. But as soon as she gets eliminated, she tries to go like at R-Truth and yell at him and whatnot. But he's just kind of like, he's going back and forth uh with Adam Pearce. So I just thought that was funny. R-Truth is a national treasure. That man can make you laugh in more ways than one. He is the ultimate comedic relief in WWE, and I just hope that they give him a good retirement package, because he is in his 50s, and that they give him a producer role within the company, because he absolutely deserves it. Now, a couple of key notes here. Roxanne Perez from NXT, aka the former Roxy from Ring of Honor. She is also a former NXT Women's Champion. She was actually entrant number 27. Now, Roxy has been main event level or main roster level and ready for a while, so I'm hoping that she joins the main roster fairly soon. But she can absolutely go in the ring too, despite her, being short. Because, hey, look, I got a picture of Roxy at DreamCon, so I may use that picture on this on the flyer. I may not, but either way, if you haven't seen that picture on my Instagram, I think I posted it. I'm not sure if I have or not, but yeah, definitely check it out. It was a time. That's all I can say. It was definitely a time. And definitely big shout out to Roxy. But still, she was number 27. And number 28 is the debuting Jade Cargill. Now, throughout the entire match, or throughout the entire time that Nia Jax was in the match, they were trying so hard to eliminate her. They even ganged up on her when they did the spot where the all the smaller wrestlers tried to eliminate the bigger wrestler, and naturally it didn't work. But it's so funny because people throughout the entire Rumble match were trying to like pick her up and throw her over the top, but she's just too big. Like Nia is one of the big girls, but they could not get her over the top of the rope and eliminate her because she's just too big and too strong and too massive and all of that other big words. But what's funny is that Jade Cargill gets in this match and lifts her up like it's easy. And that is how you make a freaking superstar. So bravo to the producers and the Triple H because they said you're gonna go in here and you're gonna pick up Nia Jax and make it look simple. So she certainly did that. She picked her up, slammed her, gave her the pump kick, picked her up again, threw her over the top rope. And I just gotta say bravo, bravo, bravo. Now afterwards, you get the Tiffany Stratton at number 29, who is also a former NXT Women's Champion. And I'm not the biggest fan of Tiffany Stratton's character. I know who she's supposed to be. It's the typical, spoiled blonde brat. It I I really don't like that character stereotype. But then again, I mean, I'm black, so it's really not much I can say to that. I don't relate to it, but still, it's a character, so I guess it works for her, and it's good because it makes her seem like a very annoying and convincing heel. So yeah, she's at number 29, and then excuse me, we got a returning Liv Morgan at number 30. Now, Liv Morgan, of course, was gone from injury, but she also has some trouble with the law in Florida now. She owns her own dispensary in New Jersey, but New Jersey ain't Florida. Weed is legal as I don't know what in Jersey, but it ain't legal in Florida. So she got busted for that. But I'm glad to see that she was able to get out and actually be a participant in the match. So yeah, Liv Morgan, of course, comes in at number 30. Now, another highlight to this match was the Bianca and Jade stare down. And oh my God, I need that match yesterday. Book it, Triple H, please. I almost said book it, Vince. Vince is no longer with WWE. Book it, Triple H. Please, I need that dream match. I need to see two dominant, strong as hell black women with the presence of goddesses standing across the ring from each other, one on one, or in a tag team. It don't matter. I need them to be in a match yesterday. That was such an iconic moment for that Rumble. Even if they didn't win the Rumble, spoiler alert, it still was iconic to see that. But in any case, of course, one of the biggest things that happened is Jade actually gets a double whammy. She eliminates Becky by actually catching Naomi and using her as a pendulum to knock Becky out the ring. And then by the same token, lifts Naomi over her head and eliminates her from the competition. So I thought that that was really a really good spot. Now, the final three come down to Liv Morgan, Jade Cargill, and Bailey. And mind you, Bailey was number 3 in the entire match. And Bailey has been sneakily been getting these eliminations and staying in the match and staying active. Bailey has at this point been in the match the longest since Naomi has been eliminated now. So with that, it comes down to Jade and Olivia. I called her Olivia. Good Lord. It comes down to Jade and Liv Morgan being on the rope. And Liv Morgan actually cleverly eliminates Jade by hitting her with her running flatliner, which she calls the Oblivion, which she usually does to bounce off by bouncing off the ropes. But of course, she didn't do that. So she uses the Oblivion to eliminate Jade. And you see a smile on her face, but before she can truly smile, Bailey comes out of nowhere and kicks her out, and Bailey has won the Women's Royal Rumble. And it's actually a long time coming because Bailey has just about done everything within WWE except win the Royal Rumble, and now she has won. So now she gets a chance to challenge for either the Women's World Championship on Raw or the WWE Women's Championship on SmackDown, which is being held by her stablemate, Io Sky. With that in mind, a lot of people suspect that she will challenge Io because Bailey has kind of had some friction with Damage Control, and so we're suspecting that she will eventually challenge Io. I don't know how it's gonna happen, but that's what I'm suspecting. I do not expect for her to go after Rhea like she says she's going to, because somewhere along the line, Damage Control is gonna screw her, and she's gonna begin her babyface run, and she's like, "No, I'm challenging Io," and then that would be a good moment for her to win at WrestleMania. We'll see. We shall see. I'm definitely going to be in cheering for Bailey to get that moment. Now, I love Io. Do not get me wrong. I love Io, but I just want to see Bailey actually get her moment. Now, with that, let's get on to this Roman match. So, we have a fatal four-way for the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship of the world, and the match itself was kind of It had its spots. It really could have just been either on Raw or SmackDown, but we know it's the Universal Championship, so they're not going to do that. Ooh, excuse me, I just yawned. I'm going to try and be quick because again, it's about to be my bedtime. But still, you get the Fatal Four Way. You get the champion Roman Reigns versus his challengers AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and L.A. Knight. Yeah. If you don't know that reference, just look it up. So the match actually starts with three of them jumping Roman, obviously, because Roman has weaseled his way out of matches or has weaseled his way into winning these matches somehow or another. That in mind, the match itself was fine. It just didn't feel like it was Royal Rumble worthy. But needless to say, the match itself was cool. We got a couple of spots where this Roman has this idea where he's gonna, if he's in a multi-man match, he's gonna stack his opponents and pin them at the same time. So there was an effort to try and do that, but you got a lot of people who hit their finisher on Roman. I believe the first person to hit their finisher was LA Knight, if I'm not mistaken. He hits the BFT or the blunt force trauma on Roman, but AJ breaks up the count. AJ gets rid of LA and then hits the Styles Clash on Roman Reigns, but then it's Randy Orton who breaks up the count. Then Randy Orton hits an RKO on AJ Styles, hits an RKO on LA Knight, and then hits an RKO on Roman Reigns. Now, Reigns has been hit with everybody's finisher at this point in time, and he actually has not kicked out of a single one. He's literally been lying there. And so, of course, Randy goes for the pin, but instead of it being broken up by any of the match participants, it was broken up by, of course, his bloodline stablemate and one of his cousins, Solo Sikoa. Now, if you don't know who Solo Sikoa is, he is Solo Sikoa, excuse me. He is one of the brothers of Jimmy and Jey Uso, who are all three of them are the sons of Rikishi. So, not Roman. Roman's father is Alpha of the Wild Samoans. But still, or is it Sika? I'm going to say it's Alpha, but don't quote me on that. I'll look it up. Anyway, he interrupts the match. He gives a Samoan spike to everybody. He tries to run and take out AJ through the barricade. He misses. And so LA has recovered, and pretty much Randy has recovered, and so has Roman. There's a spot, of course, where Roman hits Randy with the spear, which is his finisher, but Randy rolls out the ring. And then LA Knight tries to go for a blunt force trauma. At the same time, AJ Styles is setting up for the phenomenal forearm. But Roman pushes LA into the ropes. It causes AJ to fall onto the ropes. He gives a Superman punch to LA to get him out the way. And then he just spears AJ and then gets the 1-2-3. So the ending of the match was fine. I think it was a little overbooked because you really have four contestants already. You do not need to add a fifth to come and break up the count. But it's fine for what it is. Most of us figured it was predictable because Roman's not losing the title here. He's going to more than likely end up losing it at WrestleMania. We hope, unless WWE decides to push the narrative of him breaking Hulk Hogan's record, which Hogan doesn't have the longest record in WWE. It's the second, but nobody wants to see that. Nobody at this point wants to see Roman break that record. Not because it's a record that, should never be broken. It's just the title and the storyline at this point have worn out its welcome. And we're not in the days anymore of the 60s, 70s, and the 80s where people can have these long title runs because they're not on TV consistently and there's not a weekly running program consistently, showcasing the title itself. It's like, yeah, it's not that time anymore. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the United States Championship with the champion Logan Paul going up against Kevin Owens. And so, one quick highlight, this match was actually really, really, really good. But I could tell Logan was pretty much kind of getting hazed in this match. He was getting his behind whooped, and that's just putting it lightly. But Logan can go in the ring, but I think that this match was the hey, you got to earn your dues match. And boy, Kevin Owens put him through the ringer. Now, again, there was a good back and forth. There was an instance where Logan like slingshots himself across the top rope onto the floor in a big splash, and it's absolutely amazing. We do get this moment where Logan actually does a buckshot lariat. Of course, WWE doesn't call that the buckshot lariat, but he does the actual move. And if you know what the buckshot lariat is, it's one of the finishers of Hangman Adam Page in All Elite Wrestling. You got to do that. You got a moment where Logan actually got on the ropes and said on the top rope with Kevin Owens and said to Corey Graves, like, hey, I'm going to bust the myth that nobody can superplex Kevin Owens. Well, unfortunately, he fell just like every other person, got on that turnbuckle, and Kevin Owens gave him that avalanche fisherman buster. So one of the moments of the match, of course, is that Logan Paul hits that quote unquote titanium enforced right fist. He calls one lucky punch. He hits KO with it, but KO kicks out at two, which that's supposed to be Logan's finisher, obviously. Logan is mad. He gets one of his entourage to try to come to the ring, but the ref stops him from coming. And then, of course, you have Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, who are friends with Logan Paul, and they try to cause a distraction. Austin Theory tries to slip Logan Paul brass knucks, which he's used to win the United States Championship. So he tried to use it on KO. It didn't work. KO took it off, put it on his fist, and knocked Logan Paul out. And the problem is that, of course, he left the brass knucks on. And so the referee went one, the referee went two, and just as he hits three, he sees the knuckles on Kevin Owens' fist and calls for the disqualification. And it's just like, of all the times for the referee in WWE to not be dumb, that was the time that y'all chose. That is the time that y'all show that a referee is actually competent. It is absolutely insane. But I did like the ending because you don't get to see a competent referee that often. So, with that in mind, after the match and Logan Paul had his hand raised because he retained via disqualification, Kevin Owens came and powerbombed him through the announcer table. And like I said, that was Logan Paul. This is your dues match. You prepare to get hazed match. He got beat the hell up. That's the best way to put it. Now, to wrap everything up, of course, we're going to have the men's Royal Rumble. Just some notes here. Again, I talked about the twins, Jimmy and Jay Uso, who are part of that Samoan dynasty, the NOIE family, and, of course, their little brother, Solo Sikoa. They are, of course, once again, the sons of Rikishi. So Jay, of course, comes in at number one. Jay is the babyface, and Jimmy, who is a heel, comes out as number two. And the funny thing about this match is, of course, is Jimmy tries to make heel alliances with everybody that jumps his brother. Like, so anytime someone goes to mess with his brother during the match, Jimmy tries to come in dab him, but hey, let's good, let's team up and whatnot. And it's really like mixed results because sometimes it'll be great, and then sometimes the heels will just like hit him like, no, get away from me. And so it was absolutely funny. Uh, we only had one return for the men, and that was Andrade. And for those who know, of course, Andrade was with NXT. Of course, he comes from a long line of lucha, but he was in NXT for a minute, came up to WWE. He got let go of his contract. He went over to AEW. Couldn't really do anything over there. Let his contract expire, and now he's back over with with WWE. Also, he married Charlotte Flair, so there's that. So of course, he had a return. Carmelo Hayes, who is currently still in NXT, but he was one of the longest reigning North American champions, if I'm not mistaken. and then he was a former NXT champion as well. But he had a really good showing as well. Now, one of the things that I was surprised at is that Austin Theory, who I just talked about, was interfering in Logan Paul's match. He comes as part of the Rumble, and he busts out his old finisher, Ataxia, on Carmelo Hayes, which I thought was kind of crazy. But in any case, we see that happening, and wow, and I'm watching Raw right now, and we see that Rhea Ripley has gotten into it with Nia Jax with damage control on the ring. It's a funny spectacle, but anyway, um, one of the biggest moments, of course, is Bobby Lashley coming out to the ring, and then of course Karrion Kross, who they're having beef right now with their two factions. They are currently going at it. Bobby actually eliminates Karrion, and then his friends, the Authors of Pain, come in and cause a distraction. Karrion actually grabs Bobby and pulls him over the top rope. And so with that, he and of course Nia Jax just used the Annihilator on Rhea Ripley. So there's that. Uh I really hate this Nia Jax push. Not I don't dislike Nia Jax as a person, because again, these are people, but I'm not the biggest fan of her in-ring work. So there's that. She's been known to damage people. This run has been pretty good. So I can't even really talk about her in-ring work. It's more so just that I don't like her character. Just seems kind of stale, but she can't talk on the mic either. But in any case, it is what it is. So yeah, they Karrion Kross eliminates Bobby Lashley. The AOP come out, and of course they start to attack Bobby, and then the Street Profits, who are Bobby Lashley's affiliates, they come out and they start brawling, and they brawl to the back. And while Ludwig Kaiser is coming out to the ring, obviously he comes out. He's like, "Oh, I'm trying to avoid all this fight," and he gets out of the way, so he avoids the brawl. Omos, the big guy, Omos comes as another surprise return, and another entrant into the Royal Rumble who actually took the place of Brock Lesnar is Braun Breaker. Now, if you're not familiar with Braun Breaker, he is currently in NXT doing some of the best work that he's done. He's a former football player who joined NXT, but the biggest thing is that Braun's real name is Bronson Rechsteiner. And so that should be a clue for us, old school wrestling fans. He is a Steiner. He is the son of Rick Steiner and the nephew of Scott Steiner, aka Big Papa Pump. So it just seems like this wrestling thing is just natural to him, because he literally just comes out and he makes a great impression. He really goes like ropes to ropes. He's crazy good and has one of the best spears in the company as far as a finisher. So yeah, a big shout out to him for coming in that spot and really having a great showcase. Now, one of the other entrants was Pat McAfee. So this is kind of weird, because if you're not familiar with Pat McAfee, he was a former punter in the NFL. He does a lot of the college game day commentary for ESPN, but for a time he was affiliated with WWE, not only as a commentator but as a talent too. He can kind of go in the ring himself, but needless to say, he wasn't wearing the right gear. He pulls a Drew Carey. For those of you who are familiar with Drew Carey in the Royal Rumble, he gets in the ring, sees who's in there, thinks about it, gets out, gets back in, and then ultimately decides to eliminate himself. Like, nope, I'm not doing it. He was wearing the wrong gear anyway as well. So I thought that was kind of a funny moment, but also kind of because that could have went to somebody else. So another thing is that Braun actually eliminates the big guy Omos, but then Dominic Mysterio, the son of Rey Mysterio, who is a heel, by the way, with the Judgment Day, that's his group, he eliminates Braun Breaker. Now, his stablemate JD McDonough, or Jordan Devlin, for those who know his real name, was actually coming to the ring to be a part of the Royal Rumble. Braun speared the mess out of this dude. Like, he folded him. like something crazy. I saw that spear. I was like, whoa, dang, that spear is so beautiful, and JD sold the hell out of it. So props to them for that. And it's funny because R-Truth then comes to the ring. He sees JD on the floor. He actually throws JD in the ring, but then JD gets eliminated himself. So he only lasted 3 seconds. I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. So R-Truth is also kind of, he plays this delusional character. He, for some reason, did not come into the ring immediately to help out Dom because he thinks it's a tag match. So of course they do the hot tag spot where Dom finally gets away from being beaten down and gives him the hot tag for him to come into the ring. It is an absolutely funny moment. So big shout out to R-Truth. You really have to go and watch this. In any case, uh R-Truth comes in, has that funny moment. He actually gets eliminated later on by Judgment Day member Damian Priest, or Punishment for Martinez for those who watch the Indies. And then it just gets kind of crazy because at the very end, I believe at number 27 is when CM Punk comes in, and he actually kind of runs roughshod as well. You get, of course, Drew McIntyre in there. Jay gets eliminated with being 50 minutes in, so he is the only person that actually goes the distance, not the distance, but he goes the longest in this match. Nobody else has stayed in the match for over 50 minutes at this point except for Jay. So hats off to Jay Uso for that. The final four actually end up being CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, and Gunther. And if you don't know who Gunther is, of course, he's the former Walter, real name Walter Hahn, and he's the current Intercontinental Champion in WWE in the longest reign of anybody who has held that title. As of this recording, he was at 598 days. So by the time that you hear this, he will be in day 600. So hats off to Gunther. Like, he is really an amazing wrestler, amazing competitor, and a very great heel. So those are your final four. Later on, we actually get news that CM Punk actually tore his triceps throughout this match. And it's really, really sad to see because they were having plans to have him, who just came back from AEW, just came back into wrestling, but they had plans to have him go up against Seth Rollins, who is the world heavyweight champion on Raw. And unfortunately, Rollins kind of blew out his knee, but with rehab, like super strong rehab, he'll be able to heal his knee in time for WrestleMania. But CM Punk tore his triceps. It's not the same injury, and unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to stay in. So, not the Royal Rumble itself, but we just got an update on Raw, of course, that he's gonna miss WrestleMania, which is kind of his dream. Like, he came back to main event in WrestleMania, and yet he has to wait another year. So, unfortunately, I'm so sad to hear that about CM Punk, but it's wrestling and injuries happen all the time. I wish it wasn't like that, but it is what it is. It is a very, very brutal sport. And I know a lot of people will say that wrestling is fake. And I'm like, no, wrestling is predetermined, but it isn't really fake. You have a predetermined outcome, you have a script to follow. But those bumps that they take in the ring are very real, very real. So my support goes to CM Punk. I hope that he gets better. I hope that he gets a chance to main event WrestleMania next year. So, but still, he's in the final four of this match. CM Punk actually eliminates Drew McIntyre, and of course, Cody Rhodes eliminates Gunther, which is funny because Cody eliminated Gunther last year to win. Now, now it's CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. They're having that face to face, just like they did on Raw the week prior. And you can just kind of feel it like, okay, this is where the story is getting good. The men's match has been kind of up and down so far, but I thought that this was an important moment because now you get to see a little bit of a mini match and this finish play out in real time. Of course, it comes down to them trading their finishers, Cody hitting him with the crossroads and CM Punk hitting him with the go to sleep. So there came a time where CM Punk actually hit the pedigree on Cody, and then he said, I did not wait 10 years to lose to Dusty's kid. Now, if you're not familiar, Cody Rhodes is the son of the legendary American Dream Dusty Rhodes, who passed away a few years back. But Dusty has been a major influence, especially within WWE. So for him to say that, at that point, I knew, I was like, oh, Cody might actually win this. Cody stops the go to sleep from happening. He grabs CM Punk and he tosses him over the ropes, and Cody Rhodes has won the Men's Royal Rumble for a second time. And he's the first person to win back to back Royal Rumbles since Stone Cold Steve Austin in 97 and 98. So big shout out to Cody Rhodes for being able to do that. I'm glad that I got to see it. I'm glad that my prediction was wrong because I did have CM Punk win, but it turns out it was Cody's night, and that will put all the Cody versus Cody, not Cody versus Roman, excuse me. That will put all the Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania uh rumors to bed, or will it? I don't think that it's going to be for the championship, but we know for certain it's going to be Roman versus Cody. There might be a few, storyline hiccups there, because if you were watching Raw in real time like I was, or like I am, you see that Seth was like, hey, don't challenge for Roman's title, challenge for mine. And Cody did tell him he would think about it. So there's those little seeds of storytelling that you're getting in there. And so I think that that is an amazing story to tell. But eventually, I believe it will be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia in the main event on night 2. And Cody will become the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, or at this point, I could just call it the WWE Champion. I believe that he will become the WWE champion because that is the title that his father never got the chance to hold. And he told that story, of course, when he came back to WWE. So, yeah, big shout out to Cody. Big shout out to Bailey for winning the women's. Overall, I would say that this Royal Rumble is like a 7.75. Was it the best Royal Rumble I've seen? No. Last year's was actually much better. I gave that one like a 9, but this one was still pretty good. There weren't too many shenanigans here. We finally get Bailey to have her moment, and then we get to see Cody go back to back. I think those are special moments. But what really kind of brought this card down, of course, was that WWE Championship match. Unfortunately, Roman has gone to like the slow and methodical approach as far as his matches, but sometimes it really doesn't like work. But on top of that, I think that they kind of put that match a little early because it was the second match after the women's Royal Rumble match, and that should have actually been the match before the men's Royal Rumble if the men's Royal Rumble was the main event. But if I had to give each match like a star rating out of 5 stars, I'm giving the women's Royal Rumble match a 4.5 out of 5. I'm giving the WWE Fatal 4-Way match 3. I'm giving the United States Championship match a 4.2. And then I'm giving the men's Royal Rumble match about a 3.5 or so. I think it's right around there. But seriously, the women's Royal Rumble match was the best match and had the best surprises out of everything. Now, I am glad that the men didn't have a whole lot of surprises because, I mean, let's be real. It's better to use your entire roster, or at least most of your roster, than calling up some old legend who's probably not even going to be in the match a good 2 minutes, much less 1 minute. But still, I'm satisfied with the results, even if it was a little predictable in some circles. And I'm also glad that I got a chance to watch it with some of my friends. It overall was an enjoyable Rumble, and I cannot wait for Elimination Chamber, which happens in Perth, Australia. And I cannot wait for WrestleMania, which is 68 days away as of this recording. So let me know what you guys think. How did you enjoy the Royal Rumble? If you watched it, and if you're not a wrestling fan, that's cool. Go watch some of these highlights. I promise you, like if you decide to pick up wrestling again, you'll enjoy it. Especially if if you're black, as we like to say, wrestling is for niggas. So do yourself a favor and go watch. I promise you, you'll enjoy it. It's one of the best soap operas out there because, as I like to say, all the women like to watch their reality TV and whatnot. Wrestling is kind of like reality TV, except you get to see people body slam each other and throw fake punches at each other, but it still feels like you're watching some sort of sport, which technically it is because you have to be athletic as all hell to be a wrestler. So I encourage you to definitely go and watch. Now, I have another episode for you coming out this week, guys. We got to talk about the culture stuff as well. So I will drop another culture episode pretty soon. I promise you. Just stay tuned. This is for the wrestling fans. And then the culture episode is coming back full force this week. So please be sure that you pay attention to that. I'm not going to do the rundown because, again, it's getting late. I got to be sure that I'm up at a certain time. But thank you for kicking it with me, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you so much for your continued support of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. Thank you for everybody who reached out to us when W became our official sponsors. Y'all don't know how much that really truly means to me. Just be sure that, once again, you go to wenergy.gg and be sure that you get your energy supplements. So if you're a gamer, if you're a podcaster, if you work out and you need something that ain't going to give you the jitters, W Energy is for you. Again, go to wenergy.gg and use promo code Chaotic Culture 1 to get 10% off your order. With that in mind, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. Please be sure that you follow us on all social media. A TikTok will be coming soon, I promise you guys. Please be sure that you, of course, subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast at patreon.com/Chaotic Culture Pod. You'll get to see the exclusive video version of the podcast right here, only available on Patreon. We do have a YouTube. I will be sure that I post videos on that. But until then, please be sure that you go and subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. Please be sure that you subscribe. Episode will be out as well. Again, it won't be the video version, but our podcast is available on YouTube, so you can check it out. Please be sure, of course, that you follow all of my co-hosts here, including me. You can follow me at Ked the Pro. That's K3D the Pro on all social media. You can follow Law on Twitter/X at Law96_ and on Instagram at L.JR_97. You can follow L.JR_96, not 97. Goodness gracious, I'm talking too fast. Anyway, you can follow Miss Sappy on all social media at Scraps14. NASA's taking a break, so I won't plug her socials here. But also, please be sure that you follow Johnny at J Lee Trey on all social media, and follow Scuba Steve at Scuba Steve 1428 on all social media. And this has been another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. So until next time, folks, remember, embrace the culture, chaos rules, be blessed, be safe, God is love, and we are.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue all the latest topics, guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel, just like you're a kid again. Kid the Pro and friends, black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And